Yeah, while Americans had a blast this weekend, we saw it firsthand how Democrats, and they had other priorities. They released a report accusing the America 250 celebration as being a pay-to-play scheme. It also blasted Hillsdale College's educational freedom truck, which Democrats claim put a Christian nationalism twist on American history. Joining us now is Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Chairman, thanks for joining us. I don't know if you can put a Christian nationalism twist on a history that began with a bunch of Christian Americans who really believed in creating a country. But with that being said, is this something that you think Democrats are going to investigate, or is it probably, it's in a long line of things Democrats will investigate if they get the gavel?
Well, one of the Democrats you had on there said oversight will begin if the Democrats win, and mentioned investigating the 4th of July celebration. Oversight is in full swing. We are investigating waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what the Oversight Committee is about. We're all over Medicaid and Medicare fraud. We're working closely with Vice President J.D. Vance. We're working closely now with the revamped Department of Justice that's prosecuting dozens and dozens of people for fraud. So I think the Oversight Committee is the one committee in Washington that's actually functioning and doing good work for the American taxpayers. But what you see is the Democrats have so much hatred for Donald Trump. They're blinded by their loyalty to their country. They would rather Donald Trump fail and America fail than celebrate the success of our founding fathers and the fact that we are the greatest nation on the planet. We are the greatest nation in the history of the world. Anyone can become anything in America because of the sacrifices of our founding fathers, the sacrifices of our soldiers, the sacrifices of our American heroes. And that's what last night was all about. President Trump made the focus about honoring our heroes and being proud to be an American. And all the Democrats want to do is say, oh, if you vote for us, we'll investigate Trump for wasting money on an independent celebration that, oh, by the way, mentioned Christianity, even though our country was founded by people seeking freedom of religion. So this is just a perfect example of the Democrats, and I think that all they're going to do if they flip the House and become the majority in the House is investigate and harass Donald Trump.
Yeah, Chairman, it's such a great point. It reminds me of the polls that find that Democrats are significantly less patriotic than Republicans are, especially when they're not in control of the White House or in government in general. What do you make of that split screen between the two parties when it comes to patriotism?
I'm concerned about it because, Republicans are almost 100% proud to be American, but Democrats are only about 25% proud to be American. So Democrats not just have become liberal socialists, they've become anti-American. And I think that's something that we should all be concerned about. We need to figure out where this is coming from. Is this coming from our universities? Is this coming from left-wing teachers that are indoctrinating hatred of America and anti-Semitism into these young Democrats? I don't know where it's coming from, but it's a problem. And I think that what we have to do as Americans is celebrate the fact that we have fought socialism, we have fought tyranny, and we created the greatest country in the history of the world. And that's what last night was all about. But yet you have all the Democrats on the Sunday shows today complaining that they were honoring, Christian leaders, and there were Christian themes and Christian songs, and it wasn't, it didn't fit their political correctness ideology. That's nonsense. And I think that we have to continue to celebrate America and celebrate our heroes, and I think that's how we're going to get our country back and not lose our country to a bunch of left-wing Democrats who hate America.
Chairman, I think the last time that the Democrats were happy at any event was when they had the LGBTQ trans flasher. But for those of you who weren't lucky enough to experience it, you can Google it. Chairman Comer, I want to talk about something else now. There were several reports this week calling out the GOP-led Congress, saying members have lost motivation to get President Trump's agenda passed, setting up a do-nothing summer, as some are calling it, and maybe even a zombie Congress. But your colleagues are still vowing to get the Save America Act over the finish line. Take a listen.
This week, a handful of Republicans took down the procedural rule to advance legislation. I just decided it was best to send everybody home to go celebrate July 4th in their districts. We'll come back, gather everybody together. The big urgency is to get Save America passed.
We can pass Save America Act. But the only way this passes is by ending the filibuster, and I am fully supportive of doing so.
Chairman, we know the president is very serious about the Save America Act. It feels like some of your colleagues in the Senate maybe aren't as thrilled about it, or they don't have quite the tenacity to go after it. Where is this going to go? Is there a possibility for a slimmed down version? Is that something that we could still have a glimmer of hope about?
Well, I hope so, and Leader Thune needs to tell us what they can pass in the Senate. I mean, surely to goodness, we as Republicans can agree that you should have to show a valid ID to vote. You have to do that in Kentucky, but there are many blue states that don't, and there's a lot. There are always the states that have questions. There are always the states that take days and days to count their votes, and there's always election controversies in those states. So why not put it to rest? Why not ensure that every American has confidence in the integrity of our elections by showing a voter ID, or by showing a real ID? That's what we have to do to go to the airport and get in the Capitol, and I show an ID to check in a hotel and at least 4 or 5 times a day, but not to vote. I mean, that's preposterous. So we've passed the Save America Act in the House, and it's collecting dust in the Senate. The clock is ticking. It needs to pass in the next few weeks in order for that to take effect for this election this November. So that's why the president's frustrated. Several of my colleagues are frustrated. I don't agree with their tactics to shut down the House because the Senate's not doing its job. What needs to happen, and what needs to happen right now, is Leader Thune and the leadership in the Senate need to call Mike Johnson and say, okay, we can't pass the Save America Act as it's written, but we all agree that we need to show a valid voter ID. So let's get together and come up with a compromise, because we have to do it by August the 1st. And again, the clock is ticking.
I'm sorry.
I challenge Thune to do that.
Real quick, you're in leadership, so I would imagine you're in some conversations that all members in the House aren't.
Yep.
Are you saying right now today that hasn't happened over these last several months? There hasn't been an informal conference of any kind between the leaders, the Republican leaders in the House and the Senate, to say what can be passed on voter ID, what can be passed out of the Save America Act? It seems like I just, maybe wishful thinking, thought that was already happening, and it seems to me like that's a big problem if it hasn't happened yet.
Unless John Thune's talking exclusively with Mike Johnson, all that I'm hearing from the Senate leadership is that they don't have the votes. Not only do they not have 60 votes, they don't have 50 votes, which I don't believe that. You know, some of these Republicans say we can't vote for that because we could lose our election. I mean, are you that weak? That's my question to any Republican senator that's up for that. Are you that weak to where if you vote for a valid ID to be shown to vote, you're going to get beat in your home state? I mean, if you're that weak, you don't need to be a United States senator. So this is something that polls in both parties overwhelmingly. It shouldn't be a problem, and I hope that the Senate will get it together and figure out something that we can pass to give the American people confidence in the integrity of the elections.
Let me ask you really quickly, Chairman, about the filibuster. Is it time to just get rid of this thing? I know there's some people who say, Kevin, if the Republicans do it, you know, all hell will break loose when the Democrats are in control. But I think there's a pretty fair argument to be made that at some point you have got to do the will of the American people. They sent you to Washington for a purpose. And if that means you have to get rid of it, I don't know why you wouldn't. Or am I overstating where we are right now?
No, I think you're right. Look, the Senate is completely broken. The House is not the model of efficiency, but we've passed hundreds and hundreds of bills through the House that are sitting in the Senate. They can't get people confirmed. That takes up almost the entire week of a normal week in the United States Senate. Their model is broken. They need to reform how long senators can speak on the floor. They need to reform how many votes it takes to pass a bill. I think most Americans would agree a majority of votes in the House and a majority of votes in the Senate and the president's signature, that's a pretty good process to pass bills. So I do think the Senate needs to reform. I think that needs to be on the table. Maybe not eliminate it completely, but for a lot of legislation, maybe say, okay, this legislation we still require that, whether it's appropriations or something, we still require 60 votes. But so many bills die over there that poll 70 and 80% or more, like the Save America Act, because the Democrats aren't going to do anything to work with the Republicans. Other than John Fetterman, there's not a Democrat over there that is going to vote for a single bill that Donald Trump supports from now on. That's just a fact. I wish it weren't, but that is. We have a chance to get one Democrat senator. And if all the Republicans vote for it, that's 54 votes. You're still 6 votes short. So I do think the Senate needs to reform its business model. But before we get to that, we've got to pass the Save America Act, and I just can't implore John Thune enough to get on the phone with Mike Johnson and come up with a compromise, because I think we're willing to do anything it takes in the House to require voters to show a valid ID before they can vote in November.
All right, Chairman James Comer, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate when you come on, you give us straight answers, and that's rare in your line of work, so we do appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Tommy, I'll bring it out to you. We're short on time, so I'm going to let you react.
I'm glad you asked that question, because I was also a little flabbergasted that these conversations were not had. You'd think when the president says this is my main priority, is the Save America Act, that there would have been a conversation about what can we get done. Yeah. You think that those conversations would happen often? You think that they would be very serious about getting something done, not only for the president, but for the base, for Republicans who are really serious about this. So the fact that that communication hasn't happened is bizarre and unacceptable.
Kevin?
I'm so surprised when I hear things like this, because I was like you. I was thinking, well, clearly they've been sort of working around the edges to figure out a way to get this over the finish line, because this is not just broadly supported by Republicans. Democrats support voter ID. All different groups of people support it. It seems to be a no-brainer. So the fact that it's hung up in the Senate tells you something about what's happening over there.
Kayla.
Yeah, John Thune reminds me a little bit of Chief Justice John Roberts, who seems to make decisions based on preserving the popular image of the court, or believing that inaction will somehow prevent the Democrats or the left from taking action themselves. I think we can dispense with that. Democrats are going to do whatever they want, no matter what Republicans do. However, the one thing that I'll say about the filibuster is this. I think they're right not to abolish it, because we don't have Republicans who are willing to actually use that tool to its fullest extent if they were to abolish it. So yeah, keep it in place, I guess, but then we're going to have to accept that nothing is going to get done because they don't have the courage to get it done.
Or accept that the Democrats will use it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.